Morning, children. So today we are heading towards the chapter Albert Einstein at school. So let's head towards the summary of the chapter. I'll detail the same. So the chapter begins with the Einstein in history class. The narrative begins with Einstein being asked by his history teacher, Mr. Braun, about the year in which the Prussians defeated the French at Waterloo. Einstein frankly replied that he didn't remember and he didn't see any point in learning dates. Mr. Braun was amazed that Einstein didn't believe in learning facts. According to Einstein, learning facts was not education at all. He thought that ideas were more important than facts. The teacher asked him to explain Einstein's theory of education. Einstein shyly elaborated that he would be more interested in learning the reasons why soldiers killed each other instead of learning years or dates, or which of the armies killed more men. So Albert Einstein, he had his own theory of education. He didn't believe in learning the facts. Right? For the same, he was scolded also. Second para. Einstein gets scolded. Mr. Braun was shocked and furious. He believed that Einstein had no desire to learn and was wasting his father's money. Mr. Braun didn't agree with Einstein's view on education. He punished Einstein by asking him to stay for an extra period in school. He also told Einstein that he was disgrace to the school and ought to be ashamed of himself. The teacher suggested Einstein to call his father and take him away. So teacher scolded him that he was disgrace for the school and it was better for him to leave the school and he was wasting his father's money here. Einstein hated the atmosphere of slum violence. Einstein felt miserable that day. He wished his father would take him away. His father was not rich. Einstein lived in one of the poorest areas of Munich. He hated the slum violence there. So, the atmosphere where he was provided the lodging and the boarding was not safe. It was slum area. Einstein had no comfort there. The atmosphere was bad as the landlady beat her children regularly and every Saturday her husband, a drunkard, beat her. So the landlady was usually beaten by her by husband, and there was always violence. The only comfort for Einstein was when he played his violins. He was fond of playing violin, but that was also stopped by his landlady because its sound disturbed her. All this made him miserable. So Einstein shared his pain with his friend Yuri, his only friend in Munich. Yuri tried to convince by telling him that he was so lucky to at least leave his room. Yuri also told Einstein that he was sharing a room with the students who were not civilized at all and they fought each other. One of the students got killed the previous week in such a duel. The authorities didn't take action and merely told him not to engage in such fights. Einstein got disgusted after hearing this account. So Einstein was saying he was living in the slum area and he didn't like the environment over there. But Yuri said where he was living, the area was not safe. There were frequent fights over there. Einstein met his cousin Elsa. Einstein was doubtful about his passing exam for the school diploma. He told Elsa, his cousin, the same, and when next came to Munich, she used to visit Einstein occasionally, but she lived in Berlin, where her father had a business. Elsa tried to console him. She told him that she knew a lot of boys who were more stupid than him, and they all had passed the exam. She counseled him to continue his studies in the school. ठीक है. And his cousin was saying, there is no problem, you will go through the class, there are my friends who were not studying but they qualified the exams. ठीक है. So she is trying to convincing him that he will get pass marks, no worries. ठीक है. And Einstein explained his helplessness by saying that he was not good at learning things by heart. He was reading a book on geology which was not a part of his diploma. Still, he was studying it because he liked it. Apart from his books on science, his only comfort was playing the violin until his landlady asked him to stop. So he was having a discussion with his cousin that he is interested in reading geology, and he shows keen interest also in playing violin. Einstein planned to go away from school. Einstein thought that it was meaningless for him to stay on in Munich. It was no use wasting his father's money. And everyone's time. So Einstein got an idea. He met Yuri and asked him if he knew a doctor. Einstein wanted to get a medical certificate to show he had a nervous breakdown and he should stop going to school. Yuri doubted that the doctor will believe Einstein. Einstein commented that he will have a real nervous breakdown to make matters easier for the doctor. So he was saying, it's better for me, I'll leave this school, I am not interested. So can you provided me a medical certificate? So his friend was saying, it seems difficult to provide certificate for the nervous breakdown. So he was saying he will pretend for the same. Doctor gives Einstein a medical certificate. Yuri found a recently qualified doctor, Dr. Ernest Weil. Yuri wanted Einstein against doctor to deceive Ernest, but to be frank and honest. Einstein met Dr. Ernest the next day. The doctor informed him that Yuri had told him about his troubles. Einstein informed him that about his plans to move to Milan. Dr. Ernest gave him a medical certificate stating that Einstein was suffering from nervous breakdown and should stay away from school for 6 months. Einstein thanked the doctor and took Yuri for a meal. Fine, beta. So he told everything to the doctor and he was provided medical certificate, and then he took Yuri for a meal. Dr. Einstein seeks a reference. Einstein told Yuri that he would leave school forever as he never wanted to come back to the school. Yuri suggested to him to take a reference letter from his math teacher, Mr. Koch, before going to headmaster. Mr. Koch really admired Einstein for his brilliance and gave him a reference. But a reference letter he was required also. So he said you should see Dr. Koch. Professor, Mr. Koch. Einstein summoned, so he got the things ready. He was appreciated by the math teacher but not by the history teacher. He made all the documents, he prepared all the documents. Okay, medical certificate was prepared, reference letter was received, okay, by Mr. Koch. And then now in the end he was about to be called by the head teacher. Einstein summoned by the head teacher. Before Einstein had a chance to give medical cert to head teacher, he was summoned to the head teacher's office. The teacher told him that he was expelled from the school and he should leave immediately. When Einstein wanted to know the reason, the head teacher told him that his presence disturbed the class so much that no teaching could be done. Fine. So teacher was saying, you are expelled from the school as you disturb the whole class. It is difficult to continue with the teaching in your presence. Fine. Einstein happy to leave the school. When Einstein heard this, he felt sad that he had unnecessarily wasted time and efforts in procuring a medical certificate. So he said, oh, he made lots of ceaseless efforts to prepare that medical certificate. Einstein was tempted to tell the head teacher what he thought about the school or about the teacher, but somehow stopped himself. But he didn't feel ashamed. in being expelled and walked out keeping his head high. He didn't say goodbye, not to any teacher or a student inside the school. The only person he wanted to meet before leaving was Yuri, he, who wished him good luck and wished that he would be happier in Milan and it was a beautiful place. So he didn't comment anything to the principal. He didn't meet anyone. He was simply interested in meeting Yuri before leaving this place, and he met him, and then he was happy, and he was saying he will be happier in Milan as it's a wonderful place. So this was today for today. We will continue tomorrow. Thank you.